Flight boss, bitch. For sure. You're not listening to the Mind of an Terry's Moon. I'm the Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And we're going to talk about the metaphysics and the spirituality behind relationships. And not only relationships, marriage also. Because marriage is when you just go to the full length degree of writing down whatever actual energy signature you're going to experience. Now, this is what you need to know. When you write something down, you're that much closer to manifesting that energy signature into a shape and form, because you didn't already gave that energy a signature. You see what I'm saying? So now it has a place to be. It has a place to go. It has a direction. It has a light form. It has a concept. And it has a womb to hone in on to manifest circumstances and situations out of. So that's what you need to know. Anyway, now, when you're utilizing words at any time and writing down your signature on shit, you're agreeing to the terms and conditions of a certain energy. And if you sign your signature on it, whether spiritually, mentally, or emotionally, or physically, once you sign your signature on it, then whatever accumulate from that energy signature will come back to you in some way, shape, or form. So this is why even when people are blind to the day-to-day life in society and think getting married is something good, but when you get married, you experience a lot of bad circumstances and situations, and little to none is there actual any type of completion. You see what I'm saying? There's always going to be an uphill battle when you're talking about a relationship. There's never going to be a smooth sailing. And I'm going to break that down. Why? Now, here's the thing. When we talk about relationships in general, that is a offspring. That is an offspring of an energy itself. Now, this energy of relating itself is what our spirits is doing in the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimension. You see what I'm saying? Now, we're swimming in water, and water moves and flows. So based upon your positioning, your location, your spot within that water flow, right, you have to learn how to relate. So our spirits is learning how to relate and learning how to be in a rotation. AKA, you can't step on nobody's toes. You can't move yourself in someone else's space. You have to make sure you're creating enough spaceships, AKA enough room, air, earth, to separate yourself from another individual, so your space don't get smothered. So when we're talking about relating, we're learning how to do this spiritually already, whether it's manifesting physically or not yet. You see what I'm saying? Now, when it manifests physically, here's where you get relationships. We build bonds. We built spaceships. We built Titanics. We built motherfucking Noah Arks. We built these motherfucking ships in order for not only ourselves to ride, but for others who want to ride along with us. So therefore, when we're going through an astral travel, sometimes things can get very chaotic, because currents and waves, aka stars, can be moving rapidly and forcing you into directions to the point that it'll make you run into asteroids and make you redirect your actual path, aka in the 3rd dimension. That's just manifesting scenarios that's not in your favor. Manifesting situations and people in your life that don't cater to your natural energy. So they play out as road blockages, or they play out as people who redirect your energy into other areas. You might want to do this today, but you can't do that today because you got these responsibilities based upon this person, place, or thing that you have manifested. You see what I'm saying? So that's what it means to be getting hit by asteroids and be getting washed up by the current in the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimension. So as spirits, right, we all have our own space within this ocean water. So when we talk about relationships, a lot of times it's important for us to learn how to relate, because a lot of times we may need each other to actually protect ourselves or create a certain sheltering through the astral travel. What do I mean? Right? When we're going through an astral travel, I just explained how currents could be heavy. And currents and asteroids play out in the 3rd dimension as you going through bad circumstances or a situation that's not in your favor. So, for the most part, when we're swimming and flying in the astral realm, which is the same thing as spirits, a lot of times it's kind of hard for us to sustain astral travels alone. It's easy to get washed, especially if you don't got a good sufficient spaceship or Titanic to go over those waters, or to swim through that current, and it may be too heavy. So you may by default get washed up by the current and manifest bad circumstances and situations that's out of your hands, or situations that might just overwhelm you to the point that it make you feel like you may need help. AKA, you need another spirit in your space in order for you to go through this astral travel effectively without getting washed up. So this is where we start to build on relating with each other. And once we're relating with each other within one space as a group, we're going to have to learn how to deal with each other's habits, aka each other's state of beings. So for the most part, long as we know how to relate with each other, this spaceship can go to the promised land. But if we relating to each other very chaotic, then the spaceship, once it breaks down, catch holes in it and floods in it, if we're not working together, aka relating together, then that same ship can sail off a cliff or into a dam. So for the most part, let's get into the metaphysics of the goddamn relationships. And I know it took me 5 minutes to get into it, but y'all know how I gotta break it down into layers. Y'all know we gotta do this shit. You won't even be able to understand the video to the full spectrum and to the full potential if I don't break down the most thinnest, lightest frequencies of the layering. You see what I'm saying? Once you get once you get that part out the way, like the parts that people don't understand and be like, I don't get it, or you lost me. Once you get all those parts out the way, then you anchor that down into into the third dimension, and start making that make sense. Start making that fire and water make sense with the air and earth, aka logically making sense and practically coming to conclusions on how you can relate this imagination and this dream or this inspiration on when we're talking about relationships in this motherfucker. So now let's get into it. Let's get back to 3D. So now, here's the whole purpose when you're talking about a relationship or marriage. But let's talk about the relationship first. The basic root cause of it is you sharing your space with another. So for the most part, you are sharing your space with another. Your space is your spirit. So for the most part, when your space becomes too smothered, that's when you know that you are getting spiritually attacked and you need some spiritual freedom. So for the most part, in the third dimension, it may play out as you telling your partner you need a little bit of time or space for the time being. Or if you're dealing with friends, you may be not dealing with them on a day-to-day basis or 24/7 basis. You may give it a weekly time, like you deal with this person once out of the week or once out of the month. And that's how you know you could breathe and have a little bit of freedom, because breath, reason why in the ancient times they used to call the spirit the breath, is because the breath and the air was one of the lightest shapes and forms that these beings was consciously aware of. So the beings in every civilization always try to tie the spirit to the lightest shape and form that we realize or end up being consciously aware of or learning about. So for the most part, once it was fire, once it was water, once it was air, and in today's time is blood. But for the most part, I'm here to tell you it's nothing. It's no thing. So this is how things can be created out of nothing, but not how scientists is teaching you. I'm teaching you nothing how Archangel Uriel is teaching you. No thing, no shape and form. So therefore, you could take your wave and create many different shapes and forms, aka with your imagination. Now, for the most part, before we even get into that, let's talk about the relationship. So you're basically sharing your space. So the key thing when it comes to relationships, you need to make sure that you're sharing imaginations, you're sharing creativities, you're sharing goals, and you're sharing actions. Otherwise, that is going to be a recipe for disaster. And that space is going to vortex in a negative energy. So y'all only going to manifest negative circumstances and situations, what may play out in the third dimension as stress, burden, responsibility, and frustration. Now, here's one of the key things you need to know about your spirit. Your spirit always needs time alone. So I don't give a fuck how much or what kind of family you was raised in to make you feel like you might need to jump into a relation. You might be a heavy Piscean or a heavy Libran energy or Taurus energy to the point that you think life is supposed to be dealing with relationship, which that is right only to a 70% percentage rate. Because here's what you need. You're always going to need 30% or more. And I like to say half, even more than that, time to yourself. Because anytime you are spiritually attached to any light, aka shape, form, gas, bacteria, concept, a person, place, or thing, anytime you are spiritually attached to these things, what's actually happening is you're creating routine and pattern. And your spirit likes to stay in a routine and pattern only to develop information and to figure out that form that they went into. So once they figure out that body, that world that they went into, the spirit wants to fly off and go into something new. So anytime you fixate yourself into a light form, aka a person, place, or thing, right, your spirit is going to by default create a circumstance or a situation to force you to create a catastrophic moment. So you might do things and not even know that you was manifesting it and think that it's someone else to blame, but really it's your spirit at work trying to create a situation to remind you that you don't need to be clinging on or getting lost into any light, aka creating a routine that fixates your ass in some type of situation that your spirit only could rotate in that current spiral and can't swim into another wheel, can't swim into another realm, can't swim into another realm of reality where dreams and imaginations can flourish and take more attributes. You see what I'm saying? You just stuck and blinded into one elemental energy current flow, and therefore you not knowing or experiencing life the way it's supposed to be, and then you never experience your true godly state, because your true godly state is when you experiencing new things. So that's another key thing when it comes to relationships. Make sure there's constant new things going on within a relationship, because for the most part when a relationship get too fixated when it comes to sex, same sex positions, same sex location, same ideas, same food, same eating, same games, same entertainment, after a while you guys going to get frustrated with each other once again. So make sure you always keeping something new. Even if you are doing the same thing over and over again, make sure you're adding a new element or idea to that same particular thing that you guys are doing over and over again. Therefore the spirit will have something to attach to be in this godly state, to appreciate the actual shape and form that is lost in at the moment, aka the relationship. Now, you know what I'm saying? So anytime you are spiritually attached to something and too close to that or another person's spirit for too long, by default, you're going to start creating circumstances of frustration, aka your spirit trying to remind you, don't get too comfortable. Now,